because of the power of social media. I don't think I knew most of the people in this room if it was not for social media. And if you see the chatter, particularly on Twitter, and if not so on Facebook, is largely political. And the social media has created a very vibrant alternate discourse, right? And as we all individuals realize the power of this, we want to know how this can be leveraged more effectively to achieve an electoral outcome. Because at the end of the day, a political party that is in power will be the only party that will be able to enforce its ideological positions, right? You cannot sit in the opposition or be a civil society and try and make the change that you want. And therefore, anything that we do, we have to see how we are contributing to the last mile issue, and that is actually the electoral outcome. So in the next slides, I will essentially try and give what the position is today and how social media is perceived. But a large part of this discussion is about getting ideas, and getting ideas from you in terms of what I think are the challenges that we face as a community on the internet and on social media, and how you think we could actually go past some of those challenges. Any electoral campaign has basically two aspects. One is your tactical and another is your strategic. Every political party indulges in tactical strategies, which is who do you field, how do you position your candidate, what is the local communication that you do, and eventually how you communicate local issues and get people to vote on the day, right? That is what we all see in our respective constituencies wherever we go. But there is a more strategic narrative, and if we see what's happening on social media is more of that. It is about the right communication. What you say, how you position that narrative, and how do you counter an existing discourse that is available. And I think all of us are consciously or subconsciously doing that by our presence on Twitter. And the reason why it is required is that the long spell of a singular discourse has distorted availability of information, and actually because of the advent of social media and internet particularly, there is now a counter to that is being presented. Why social media particularly? Because it allows you to set the agenda, it allows you to counter the propaganda. You can run fact-based negative campaigns, which are very, very important in electoral democracy. It can allow you to have targeted messaging, right? I tell you what you want to hear and not what I want to say. That is the key to it. It allows you to educate voters, and it allows your publicity material or your talking points to be spread wide across. Now, one of the things that some of us may think is that, look, there is this information out there for people to see and people would be accessing it. But you'll be surprised that a lot of people, even amongst the educated class, is actually very, very ignorant. People in very well-to-do jobs, in very good companies, very good educational qualifications, have no clue what is happening in this country. Right? They get swayed and carried away by what they see in media, right? Or essentially what someone else tells them, someone who they trust tells them. And that means that anybody who puts the information out will actually have the advantage, right? Until now, although the controlled mainstream media were able to do that, but now with the democratization of media, each one of us can publish information, and with social media we can disseminate that information. And that is really the key. Just taking on from why social media, it has come to acquire quite deep penetration. It is very sticky. Most of us spend a lot of time on Facebook and Twitter, right? Those of us sitting here clearly are doing that in quite measure, and I'm sure you know a lot of other people who are doing that going on in this room. Facebook alone has about 71 million subscribers in India in December 12, which was a 54% jump over December 11. That has been the growth that Facebook has seen. And its likely reach is going to be about 100 million by December 13. Add another 25 million NRI population, which will also be eligible to vote. A channel like Facebook allows you to do
When you say 70 million, is it individual users or it also includes multiple profiles of the same user?
It's actually multiple profiles also of the same user. It's not individual, so it's like an aggregation. A platform like social or Facebook actually allows you to do peer-to-peer micro-targeting, and it's a very personal thing. So if I go to a restaurant and I like the food in that restaurant and I recommend it on my timeline, then all my friends see it, and if they like my taste, then it is more likely that they will go and visit that restaurant as well, right? And that is the big advantage that Facebook has. It amplifies and facilitates your repeat messaging in some sense. You can say the same thing again and again in a different way. And political discourse is all about saying a few things again and again and again and again and again. Okay, and that is the key. So if you keep saying that Congress is corrupt, it's corrupt, it's corrupt, it's corrupt, people will believe it's corrupt, although that is also a fact, right? But that is the real power of social media. It allows for two-way communication. It allows for crowdsourcing feedback, so you know what you're saying and how effective it is. It's not as if you're preaching something and there's no audience. That kind of situation won't be there. Interestingly, this is a new medium. No one knows what its impact is, right? So we do have the first mover advantage. It is for us to see how we capitalize on this first mover advantage. Why Facebook? There was a recent study that happened, and I'll just quote that study to sort of bring out possible impact that it could have on the electoral outcome. 97% of people on social media use Facebook, and that's a very, very large percentage. It is spreading rapidly beyond metros. 1/3 from towns with population less than 5 lakhs, and 1/4 from towns with population less than 2 lakhs, right? So it is not elitist, it is not urban. It is actually going down to smaller cities and smaller towns. About 160 out of the 543 are high impact constituencies. And the way high impact constituencies are marked out are constituencies where the Facebook user is higher than the margin of victory, or the Facebook user is more than 10% of electorate. So hypothetically, if the any constituency has a 10 lakh people electorate, and if Facebook users are more than 1 lakh, then it's a high impact constituency. Or if say the margin of victory was say 30,000 vote or 40,000 vote, which is what it is in most keenly fought Lok Sabha constituencies, then those are high impact constituencies. 67 of the 543 are medium impact, which are basically defined as constituencies where Facebook users are more than 5% of the voting population, and each Facebook user can influence another person. And rest and impact are classified as low or no impact. But even if you focus on only 160 constituencies, look at the party-wise standing in these 160 constituencies. The Congress actually had 75 seats in the high impact, where the BJP only had 44. In the medium, Congress had 28, BJP had 18. Low again, 27, 11. So total about 76 and no is about 76 and BJP had 43. Now imagine if these numbers were to flip, right? You will almost have about a 90 seat jump in the favor of the BJP. So it is a powerful medium. It is for us to see how we use it. Now Twitter. We all love Twitter because I think we spend a lot of our time on Twitter. But actually, in my opinion, Facebook is a more potent channel as compared to Twitter for political messaging, because it is very personal. Like I said, you are more likely to believe what I tell you because I'm your friend than someone else telling you something, and I'll come to that later. But Twitter, about 1.6 crore people currently use it, which is about 14% of social media. However, I think Twitter's internal numbers are much higher. They claim that it is almost double. Twitter is a very open platform, so a media celebrity need not be your friend, but you can still follow them, counter them, and sorry? Yeah, well, that's another thing. It is clearly partisan. So you're either on this side of the political divide or you're on the other side. I find very few people who are neutral on Twitter, or perhaps if they are neutral, they are still sitting on the fence and not engaging too much. But it's a partisan platform, you will get identified. So if you're identified as a pro-right, commentator, then there is a likelihood that more people will actually follow you for what you have to say. Although my experience is that most people on the right love to follow the ones on the left. So all the people on the left have a lot more following than those on the right. But I guess that is more to sort of counter what they're saying and keep throwing facts and barbs at them. So which is also fine. Twitter is very noisy, right? It creates a lot of energy, it creates a lot of buzz, but I'm not sure how much, how much does it sort of stick on over a period of time, because it's like a flowing river, information comes and it goes. So unless it is said again and again and again, it doesn't sort of quite register. But it allows for like consolidation of view, which is very interesting, which allows for consolidation of view beyond your known friend circle or your limited personal network, which is what makes Twitter very interesting. And the most interesting thing is that it has taken the mainstream media hostage. I know from people who interact with mainstream media that mainstream media hates Twitter, right? They wish that there was nothing like Twitter, but unfortunately it is there now. They hate the medium, but they don't exit the medium. Not that we want them to go, but the fact is that if you say 5 times a day that I hate Twitter and Twitter is this and Twitter is that, then what the hell are you doing there? But they will never answer that question. They will continue to there. They will plug their programs there. They will try and get information out to you there, but they will still try to discredit their medium. So they're not essentially discrediting the medium, they're discrediting the alternate voices because that does not suit their political agenda, and that is very important. And therefore, for all of us, it is very important that when we counter them, we are as civil and as polite as possible. And if you're civil and if you're polite and if you have facts, trust me, they find it very, very difficult to handle you. But the moment any one of us becomes abusive, they lose or they don't comment on the facts, or they just attack you personally for being abusive. So the smart thing to do is to say the right thing, and is to hit them with facts, but not abuse them and give them a reason to sort of counter the facts that you're putting out to them. Now, let's take up the overall social media platform that exists. I talked about Facebook, and I think it dominates. There is Twitter, there is Google Plus, now there is Google Hangout, which is catching up after Mr. Modi's venture. There is Pinterest, and there is WhatsApp that is now coming along. Different channels will cater to different audiences. All of these channels support messages in various formats, text, video, pictures, and most of you are technology guys here, so you understand this better. It allows for multilingual messaging, and that is very key. Social media is not English. A very large part of social media is actually vernacular. I mean, I see a lot of stuff that is written in Tamil, in Kannada, in Telugu, and I think some of my friends who actually read these vernacular outlets tell me that it is very, very vibrant as a platform. So, as we had this session in the morning, just like English national media does not dominate the discourse, the English side of social media also does not dominate the discourse. Just that we need to figure out, most of us here actually speak local language, and therefore it is important to even focus on that part, because that is where a lot of your constituency exists. Most people today go and read Kannada stuff more than perhaps they read English. And that happens in all states, and all languages. Why is social media effective? As I said, average people believe what most other people believe, not necessarily what is the truth. And this is a fact, because if this wasn't a fact, Congress would not have been in power for so long, right? They have people who perpetuate a certain view, and people buy that view, right? But with this democratization of medium, it is very much possible for you to do it beyond your immediate sphere of influence, and we must very consciously use this aspect. Mainstream media has its biases, so do people on social media, but it's fine. At least we are not apologetic about it and we are not squeamish about it, and that is important. One of the big challenges and why I think social media can overcome is that the Indian middle class is actually very unenthusiastic. Often they are ill-informed. They don't go out to look for information. So you need to deliver messages in their inboxes or emails and stuff like that you see. And therefore, if you see something which is good, please share it. I have noticed a lot of people actually are very active on Twitter, but perhaps don't do as much on their Facebook because they want to keep it apolitical, right? And they do all their politics on Twitter. But actually the reverse should be done. You should be sharing a lot of this stuff on your Facebook, because that is where the debates happen. Because your friend is more likely to debate with you and argue on a point rather than debate with a stranger on Twitter, right? And that is the reality. So if you say that, look, Rahul Gandhi has nothing else except his dimples, and if someone disagrees, he is likely to argue with you and not with someone who may dismiss him as a BJP partisan, right? But if you give out facts and say, look, this guy doesn't attend parliament, he hasn't proposed a legislation, he does, he's good for nothing, and you give them facts, they will actually believe. They will actually believe that dimples are not good enough to run the country. You need somebody who has facts and substance. And that is what a Facebook can achieve, not Twitter. Social media has captured the imagination of first-time voters in the 18 to 24 age group. The voting population in 2014 expected to be about 800 million, and many will be below 25. Now, most of us may think that in our age group, there are no youngsters. But if you have a cousin or a nephew who follows you on Facebook, right, he has friend networks which is actually this particular age group. And if you put out an information which is actually fact-based and interesting, it is likely that your younger nephew or cousin is likely to share it. And that's how the message gets circulated to this thing. And what social media has done has actually brought out very innovative ways of delivering political messages. Satire is there are cartoons, and there are comic strips, and those kind of things, and this age group loves it. So you have to deliver the political message to this age group in the language that they understand and they think is cool, right? And social media has allowed politics to be cool. We have to just kind of see how to use it. It is very important to know how you use social media. You should know when to use a sledgehammer and when a toothpick, right? If you go bang, bang, bang on everything, they will say, oh, you're an extremist. But if you take reasoned positions and you argue logically, it is very difficult for people to refute you, right? And if they can't refute you, your credibility is likely to go up, and every time your credibility goes up, even if you sometimes say things that cannot be proven, you'll be taken as right? So build that credibility. Minds ruled by emotions cannot be overruled by logic, right? So there are a lot of issues that we feel very passionately about, and as a country and as a civilization, if there are issues like that, then you've got to pick them up and you've got to distinguish them and handle them appropriately. Voters don't read fine print. They want it short and simple. So if you try and explain to them that MNREGS is bad because it causes inflation, and inflation is not good for our country because we are a low growth country, it is very unlikely that most people will understand. But if you tell them that, see, this road is broken, it's because the Congress never invested in institutions, he will understand that, because the person used the roads every day. Tell them that the terror attacks that happened is because of the Congress. Tell them that if you don't have electricity in your house, it is because of Congress. In 60 years, they haven't delivered, right? If people die in road accidents or rail accidents, tell them it's because of Congress, because they've not invested adequately in safety measures. If people die of diseases in places like Uttar Pradesh, even in this century, tell them it is because of Congress, because they have not invested adequately in healthcare. These are serious issues. We are as bad as a third world country, And the reality is that for 60 years only Congress has ruled us, right? So this message has to be delivered. You do an intellectual debate with people who understand that. People who don't understand that have to be told simply that Congress is responsible for all the ills of this country. And that is the way to change the political discourse. Obviously, you will be able to do that perhaps if you develop that kind of credibility over a period of time. And most importantly, we must say what we have to and keep repeating it. Keep repeating it till it becomes the truth. That is what Congress does. That is what all political parties all over the world do. We have to stop being squeamish about what we believe in and say it again and again and again and again till people actually become inquisitive enough to go and find out why you were saying this again and again with so much of conviction, right? Those who are ideologically wedded to a position will not change, and we shouldn't even bother about them. But those who are neutral and are fence-sitters, in all probability, will see the reasoning and logic and will swing towards you. And my belief is that as we get more prosperous as a nation, more free market, right-wing, and a culturally vibrant society will develop, right? And perhaps we are just seeing the initial stages of that. Has social media worked anywhere before? Well, yes, it has. Obama spent about 16 million in online advertising, social media presence, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, etc. On mobile devices. They bought ad spots on buses, MTV, Comedy Central, video games, radio, student newspaper, alternate weeklies, as well as outer billboards. The message really is that if we need to take if you need to win the non-traditional voters, then you have to take the battle to unconventional avenues, right? And social media is just one of the channels, but that is the channel that we control, is free of cost to us, right? So we would love to say advertise on say MTV roadies, for example. I'm told a lot of youngsters watch it, but we can't because we don't have the money. But we control our Facebook presence. We control what we can put out there, and we can ensure that a lot of people see it. We can initiate a debate, and we should try and do that. Now, all this is fine. All that I've talked about is essentially about how do you communicate, how do you set an agenda, and how do you convey your point of view. I think we're doing it on social media already. We can do it better, right? But the bigger challenge is that how do we get this constituency to go out and vote? And that's what I think I would debate here and get ideas around. How do you build a volunteer base of such people? How do you drive them to voter registration? How do you do door-to-door campaign just closer to the election? How do you get the vote out? And some of the challenges that I have seen is that most people actually just don't go out to even register. Just the assembly election that concluded, I asked a few people who I know that why haven't you registered, even though there was registration drive in their housing societies and complexes. I got weird answers. Oh, I have my voter card in Bombay, so I didn't register here. So I said, will you travel to Bombay to vote? Yes, probably, but the fact is they won't. Because who will perhaps spend 10,000 bucks to go all the way there? The fact is we need to educate people on how easy it is to get registered here and how easy it is to move your registration to another location. How do we get people who are actually active to do door-to-door campaigns? I'm reasonably sure that most of us who are active on social media actually don't even get out on the day of voting to tell their neighbors to go and vote. How do we change that mindset? How do we make it cool to be a politician or a political activist, just before the election at least? And obviously the last mile is get the vote out. So, it'll be great to have some thoughts around it. It'll be good to understand as part of the discussion why people don't do some of these things and what can be done to get people to do some of these things based on your experience, right? And how do we basically shed the inhibition of being politically aligned or politically opinionated? And that's the thing that we should be discussing over the next 15-20 minutes that we will spend here. I'll just show you a small example of the voter awareness series that was run by the BJP in the Goa Assembly election. It was very interesting. If you see, it looked like a very apolitical campaign, right? But it talked about how the family of few was controlling the politics in Goa. Message which says bad governments are elected by good citizens who do not vote. Essentially trying to get people out to vote. There was something about the education minister who was a 6th standard dropout, which said that vote for a future of your kids. So you basically tug on their personal issues. Because it doesn't matter to anybody if your education minister is a grade 6 dropout. But if you tell them that your children's education suffers, then perhaps it matters to them. And actually we can do this kind of communication on our personal Facebook pages, on our timelines and things like that. So that is the small presentation that I had. But we perhaps open the floor for discussion. How do we do the last point of